Thank you for joining us for this second half hour of Local 3 News at 4. I'm Cindy Sexton. Hamilton County Mayor Weston Wamp, as promised, joins us right here in the studio today, and we thank you for coming in.
I'm honored to be here.
We are honored to have you, and we appreciate you taking the time out of your schedule to be here with us. We have to first talk about what's happening in our schools with the threats. So far, we are trying to keep count, but in Hamilton County alone, about 12 arrests made of students making the threats. What's being talked about behind the scenes? What kind of plans are being made in reaction to some of this?
Well, as you can imagine, for Shelby and I, it lands differently, and so many of our friends have their own children enrolled in schools across the county, and so we're first and foremost, and Dr. Robertson says this all the time, concerned about students being safe at school. And I have the great privilege of visiting once schools in session. I'd say once a week at least I'm in an elementary school, middle school, or high school. I was at Westview Elementary this afternoon. And I'll start by saying that I get the feeling everywhere across our county that our schools are safer than they've ever been. I think this is an important message for parents. You've got school safety officers and school resource deputies who are unbelievable public servants who have, in every instance that I've come across, such familiarity with their students, the teachers, the facilities that they're protecting. Some of the reason that we've had an increase, and certainly the perception is a stark increase in these threats being reported, is because state laws changed, which heightened the sensitivity of reporting, right? And I think people get a sense of that there's greater sensitivity. It seems as though everything is being reported. While we know that threats come in different sizes and shapes and levels of severity, the school system's erring on the side of caution. The sheriff's office is doing the same thing. Again, I think my greatest confidence comes through what I have experienced all across the county in rural, suburban, and urban settings, and that is that principals and teachers and school resource deputies and school safety officers, where that's the person securing the school, they are so in touch with what's going on within those walls that these threats are being identified and turned in. Unfortunately, it gets a lot of attention, and sometimes that attention comes without context, right? That these are false alarms, right? We're fortunate that there hasn't been. None of these have gone further, right? They were stopped in their tracks, reported, and I think part of the positive, from my perspective, is seeing so often across the county that intimate knowledge of the school facility and of the student body that law enforcement has within the walls, I think leads to these threats being identified and then turned over to law enforcement. And so we don't want to see that happen. You don't want to hear that a child has made a threat, whether it's a serious threat or not a serious threat. The message that all parents need to share with their children is that law enforcement, given state law, is not in a position to make a decision about whether this was a joke or a serious threat. They're all going to be treated seriously. And our legislative delegation does a great job, not just representing our community, but leading the state on issues like this. And I think they're learning in real time if changes need to be made moving forward. Yeah.
And of course, parents want to be reassured that every threat will be taken seriously, no matter what.
That's exactly right.
That's what happens with that. Well, while we're talking about schools, we need to talk about the bond issue. We're talking $200 million, school improvements, and new schools. Is this getting more complicated as we start to hear about what's going where and what the school board is saying?
Well, it's about $250 million, about $250 million that will end up being invested into school facilities over the next few years, all across the county. Some of this will come in the form of a new school in the heart of Hickson. It'll come in the form of upgraded athletic facilities or new roofs or HVAC units. So there's large and small investments across the county. We've been on this journey really for the whole 2 years that I've been in office. It's the work that I promised to do if given the opportunity to serve. Dr. Robertson and I have worked very closely together. There's plenty of details left to be fleshed out. All of these items go through a formal approval process both at the school board and the county commission. But since June, we've gone through the formalities to issue bonds. The county has a AAA bond rating from all three major rating agencies, which is a statement of confidence that the private markets have made about our county's leadership over time. We were the first county in Tennessee to be AAA rated, which means that we basically have the highest level of stewardship, the highest level of financial solvency. And a few weeks ago, as we were preparing to go to market to make these $250 million of investments, we went back before these rating agencies. I did personal interviews with all of them. And we were really encouraged to find out that even though we're making the largest investment in school facilities ever, that we retain that AAA bond rating. So you've got some, what I'd describe as political smack talk. I think some people who see that I have driven this project forward, maybe they don't want to see me be successful. This is really about all the communities we're serving. It's about students going to school in dignified, modern facilities. It's about expanding career and technical opportunities. It's not about me. It's not about Republican versus Democrat. This is about an agenda that's really good for our community from Soddy Daisy to Brainerd. Sure. And again, part of what the community can rest assured in is that the rating agencies continue to see Hamilton County as basically the safest bet you could make if you're buying municipal bonds.
Right, okay. What I think a lot of us are seeing, though, is once it was all decided on, or it looked that way, then all of a sudden somebody else comes out and says, what about the school in my district? And we're hearing a lot of divisiveness on that end, but I'm not real sure that anything would be done about that. Where do we stand now on the priority list? Is it pretty well
I'd say
finalized?
The priority list is very similar to what was originally recommended by a working group that Dr. Robertson and I convened, very similar to what the school board approved. We've added a step of accountability, really in the best interest of taxpayers, to get ahead of the architectural process, the engineering process, and then the construction process. Some of this, as you may remember, my grandfather was a noted school architect in our community, and I described my part of the Wamp family as we're the black sheep. My dad's brothers were architects. My dad's father was a great school architect, and so I learned a lot growing up about how these projects would be promised at one price point and then delivered for taxpayers at another. And so we've tried to get out ahead of that by doing preliminary analysis. And in that process, we realized that some sites are more complicated than others. For example, at Clifton Hills, we're totally committed to a solution there. But where projects, as is the case in Soddy Daisy or at the site at the current DuPont Elementary, where everything is aligning and where our assumptions were correct and the dollar amount has been identified, we're moving forward. And I'd say the priorities are very much in line with where we were a year ago. We just have to flush out the details and get through the political process, because there's no way you can make everybody happy. And I think that's one of the challenges serving countywide. You've got 11 districts represented on the school board and on the county commission, and then I try to bring it all together for with an agenda that we can all get behind.
All right. One thing that comes to mind is what will happen with the Gateway School? Is that what we're calling it now, the Golden Gateway?
Well, I think we'll leave it to the school board and smarter people to decide what it should be named.
CCA?
We believe what will happen there certainly is going to have a career and technical component, because it was at the heart of the arrangement to acquire the site from Blue Cross. There's a lot of community support for there being career and technical that serves our black and brown communities, where historically there were a lot of pathways into great careers. Those still exist at Harrison Bay. They exist at Sequoia. They exist in the construction industry, the Construction Career Center. But more broadly, we want to give students from all sorts of backgrounds direct pathways into the workforce. And so we're working through what all the different options are there. I've had conversations very recently with the school board chair. I think we're going to get to a place where we've got a clear vision for Gateway, but we're sensitive to the excellence at CCA. It's one of the best schools in the state. So we want them to be in a better facility, whether it's an improved facility up on the hill or a new facility. And the same thing at Normal Park. We want the schools, particularly schools that perform at such a high level, to be in high quality facilities, but then use the Golden Gateway, which is what it was known as historically. Like, let's use it for what the state has partnered with us on. Governor Lee endorsed our vision for career and technical there in partnership and collaboration with the state and with private sector partners. And we're very encouraged about where those conversations are with local employers who want to partner in lifting students into great careers.
Sure. Now, I see they have put on the screen some pictures of food insecurity in the county. So we are really pretty much out of time, but we do want to address that as well. We're talking about a report the first half of the year showed an increase in food insecurity in Hamilton County.
That's our Hamilton County report. We're just trying to report the facts and data as we have access to them. We've ramped up the WIC program within the health department. We provided a modest amount of funding to shore up the work, the incredible work being done at the Chattanooga Food Bank. They're seeing record needs. It's just one of those things that we're trying to be sensitive to. We think in some cases, the protocols by which parents enroll in WIC may have changed, causing more people to be enrolled. We don't know that that necessarily means there's more people who are hungry. It might just be that there are more people being onboarded into these programs. That could be a good thing. But we are concerned that the food bank has seen record demand. It's one of the reasons that we started the Center for Thriving Families, to make the resources of county government as in tune with the needs of parents of young children as possible, so that we can go and meet the needs in a very diverse community.
Okay. Mayor Wamp, we'll follow up on that a little bit later. Thanks for being here with us, sharing your time with us.
Thank you.
And we will be right back.